The question for today is, who is in the boat with you? This is a text. I'm going to read it. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind him, took him along just as he was, in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" I'm pretty sure they had a little different intensity in their voice. He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to the disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." And this question of why are you so afraid? I know we all can relate to fear. And every year there's all these various institutions, research centers, think tanks that research what people are afraid of. And maybe you can see it from where you're sitting, but this is a university who studied, it's like a sample is about 1,000 people, what they're afraid of. And you can read yourself, you can see some things that people are afraid of. And the survey team was known as Team Fear. And they've done this study for years. What they try to do is to research how to help people manage fear in healthy and productive ways. So as I was kind of prepping this, I asked my kids what they're afraid of, because probably be a little different than this. Benjamin said nothing, obviously. But everyone has fears, right? And maybe you can relate and resonate with some of these fears. So this Team Fear, they also come up with ways how we can deal with fears in a healthy way. And this is what they do. And I'm not going to read all of it, but they talk about limiting media exposure. They talk about education, preparation, building community connections, and recognizing manipulation. Golly, thank you. It happens. In rhetoric or advertising that explodes like our fears and our perceptions. And these are probably all good and helpful. But if you're on a boat and it's about to capsize, that does not help. Obviously, that's not designed for being on a boat. But there's some things that you can do all the coping and research that exists. But how are you going to prepare and not be afraid of natural disasters? Because that's what they were going through. Well, there's a squall, Sea of Galilee. But natural disasters, how do you cope with that fear? I don't know if any of you guys have been caught in a hurricane, in a tsunami, a tornado. I mean, try to use one of those if you're caught in that. Or just sickness. That's a part of life. Death is a part of life. Like, these are things that people fear. I'm in that category. Think about like the future of our kids. For those who have kids, young kids, older kids, right? Maybe there's fears associated with that. What's the life going to be for them 20, 30 years from now? Or maybe you're past that and you're in retirement and there's fear. What's life going to be now? I'm not going to talk about the retirement statistics because they're not that encouraging, what happens. But people have fears, right? Or what about tomorrow? Just tomorrow. Simple, like there's fears associated just with tomorrow. And Jesus is talking to the disciples. They're in the boat and in the Sea of Galilee. Has anybody been there? Is that part of the world? Okay, I have not either. But I learned that it is should I get it right? It's the lowest freshwater lake on Earth and the second lowest lake in the world. And the elevation fluctuates between like 200 meters below sea level. So that's like 600 feet. So the sea is surrounded by like mountains. So it was not uncommon that this huge wave will come down the wind and be a huge squall will be generated. So it's very common being on that sea and experience some rough weather. And of course, I would say the disciples see Jesus sleeping. Like, what in the world? I want us to just kind of try and put ourselves in the shoes of the disciples on that boat. Water can be very, very scary, especially at night. There's another scene in Moana. It's dark. My kids had a chance to kind of help me prep the sermon. They really enjoyed going through all these movie clips to find which one's a good fit. But that's a scary place to be. And they obviously have faith in Jesus, but we know from last week with the parables, like they're still trying to understand, who is this person? Is he the Messiah or not? And now he's just sleeping. Well, they are quite terrified. So maybe for us, are there times you feel that Jesus may be just sleeping? Like the waves are crashing. You may be struggling to keep your head above water, spiritually speaking, relationally speaking, health speaking, financially speaking, in any way. And you feel like Jesus just, like, where is God? And that's obviously a theme through the scriptures. Like, where is God? When I really, really need him. So what they did, kind of what Steve was saying, open their mouth and they essentially rebuke Jesus. And if you read the Greek, it's the way it's written in the NIV is not the best way to capture it. Thank you. It doesn't capture it the best way. He's on it. Because they're kind of saying like, don't you care for John? It's almost like a little, like a stab at Jesus. But obviously they're afraid. And Jesus, in verse 40, he says, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? Does that mean that Jesus anticipated they would have more faith by now? Is it a rhetorical question? Is it a rebuke back from Jesus? You can ponder that. But here Jesus shows that he has power over nature. And there's several Old Testament references that talks about that. That one day will come someone who even have dominion over nature itself. Some people believe that the reason that Mark put that here after the parables because it validates his teaching. Now he shows as well that he has, not only is a rabbi, but he's truly the Son of God. That he's Lord over nature and individuals. Well, it's also interesting, if you think about it, when someone has a lot of power, pretty strong, then the more power they have, the more afraid people tend to be of them. So maybe think about, like, I know we have people play sports, soccer, we got volleyball. If you see a player who's really, really good, a lot of times, okay. You kind of feel a little, and you watch them warm up, right? You watch them warm up, and you see, like, oh, man, he's good. You may start feeling a little anxious or nervous or because they're so good. And the stronger and faster that player is, the more you usually feel like a little bit of like, and if you saw that person, command the wind, it might be a little different. But that's the scenario here. This rabbi who they're starting to understand who is, or starting to believe, or maybe he's still wrestling a little bit. Now he controls the wind and the waves. And they're terrified of him and the powers that he has. When you have someone that strong, that powerful, that's on your side, you feel thrilled. You feel excited. There's emotions that are stirred. And you feel safe. You may feel adventurous. You may feel confident. And maybe for some of you guys, that's your dad's skills on the soccer field that makes you feel that way when he's on your team. Maybe. Yeah. This past Saturday, Thursday, I helped assist Coach Ben's soccer team. And there's another team that's 3 years older at Shaw's Lane in Dover who were supposed to play a Portsmouth. Portsmouth didn't show up for some reason. So they asked me to scrimmage our team, which is 3 years younger. So it says, if you're younger, you can have the coach play. And I'm still sore. And that was Thursday. But, you know, once upon a time, that was different. Did I score?
No, you hit the post.
I hit the post. Oh, I hit the post.
Between the goal and the post.
Between the goal and the post. But I want you to think, right back to Jesus. Being in the boat, and he's in your boat with you. And that question I have at the beginning is like, who's in the boat with you? Or who's in your boat? And we all know, intellectually, theologically, that God is in the boat with us. We all know that. But I do think if you're like me, sometimes you may not experience that, or you may not feel that. I think that's kind of the question for me when it comes to this question, where is your faith? How do we, on a daily basis, experience that faith that Jesus wants us to have? I had a couple of thoughts. I don't think there's any ways an exhaustive list, but a couple of things I thought of is, one, I think sometimes fears can be subtle. I think just getting in touch with your fears is what I'm trying to learn myself. Like, what am I afraid of? And for me, it helps to journal, which I don't like doing. It doesn't come natural to me, but it forced me to slow down because I like to just do. But to slow down, so to maybe journal, like what am I feeling? Or what are my fears? I think be still. Just be still and see what's going on the inside. Maybe talk to a trusted friend. Someone that you trust, that you confide in, hey, to get it out, just to be able to vocalize some things you're going through. I think another thing you can do is ask Jesus. You can ask the Holy Spirit for help. You can pray for understanding. You know, in 1 John 4:18, we know this text very well. There's no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. Like, to really understand that and to pray for God, help me understand that love, so I don't have to walk around in fear. I think lastly, I think is a very practical one. I think is super helpful. And I think that is to not give in to the fear. So in 1 Peter 3, you know, Peter is talking about Sarah, Abraham's wife, and following her as example. And he says, you know, to do what is right and to not give way to fear. I think what happens a lot is because our brains are quite smart, but sometimes the way the brain works, it doesn't help us because the brain is trying to keep you safe. So when you feel afraid, the brain sometimes will like, no, we don't want to go there. It's uncomfortable. But if you can consciously say, like, this is actually not something that's dangerous. It's just an emotion, it's something I experience, or a perception. You can actually override your automatic response. And every time you do that, you tell your brain, you tell yourself, oh, that's okay. It's okay to, for example, be vulnerable. I didn't grow up with that. We didn't talk about emotions. So my brain is like, that's not a safe place, so don't do it. Well, guess what? It ain't healthy. It's not. So the brain, that's how it works. If you don't give in, if you actually do the very thing, I'm not saying be folly and, you know, drive 120 miles down the highway because, you know, I'm talking about things that are aligned with God's scriptures. Yeah. But you feel something, you feel afraid. And God says, I want you to do this. If you do it, you realize, oh, that's okay. I can do this again. And I think the last thing is kind of leave you with this, you know, if you were not afraid, assuming we have fears, what would you do differently? I love reading books by what I call thinkers, people that think a lot. And you hear this so often when they ask people that are close to the end of the race of life. And they ask, what do you regret? And there's a common thread. I'm not going to tell what it is. You may have heard it before. Look it up. But people live a life where they often allow fears to be determining factors. And then look back and like, man, I wish I did it differently. And Jesus is with us in the boat. He's powerful. He's amazing. He loves you. He loves me. And He wants you to live a life not of fear, but of faith.